Hey guys, Joe here with JoeMartinMVC, and today we're taking a look at Turtle Wax's Scratch Repair and Renew. It tells the ability to safely remove scratches, swirls, paint transfer, water spots, and more. On the back it states that it can remove up to 1,000 grit scratches. We're going to be testing this product in 3 different ways on an old Miata door that I have from a totaled Miata. This door has scratches, severe swirls, minor oxidation, and paint transfer. We'll be testing how the product works in the 2 recommended methods, by hand and by a dual action polisher at 1500-ish RPMs, as well as with a rotary at 1500 RPMs. We can see here that this panel is all sorts of terrible, but we've got the 3 areas masked off, and I'll be doing 2 passes with each method and checking the results after each pass. Starting off by hand, we'll apply some product directly to the surface, and then use our microfiber buffing pad and go in a back and forth motion as the directions recommend. You can see that I very quickly abandoned that and went with circular motions, as there was no way I'd be able to work the product effectively just going back and forth. And since it's safe to use on a dual action polisher, I know it's safe to use in circular motion. As you can see, we were able to remove the surface layer of oxidation and a tiny amount of the paint transfer, and yes, that is paint. Unfortunately, I know this because I'm the one who did this damage. On to our second application. After our second pass, we can see that there isn't much difference. The surface is definitely better and it removed the oxidation, leaving us with a smooth surface, but we still have a lot of blemishes. Paint transfer wasn't really affected much, and the deeper scratches, which I would say are equivalent to either 1000 or 1500 grit level, are barely affected. And minor swirls were removed, but it still left a lot of the additional or deeper swirls. On to trying out the rotary. So this is my first time using a rotary in about 7 years, so work with me a little bit here. We start off by priming our pad, which is a 5-inch Meguiar's microfiber cutting pad. Once our pad is primed, we spread some of the product onto the panel and begin our first pass. We start at 1000 RPM and then bump the buffer up to 1500. You can see that I'm definitely a bit out of practice here, as the rotary does tend to jump around a little bit on me, but fortunately this doesn't impact the effectiveness of the compound, so we're good. The product was extremely easy to remove by hand since it didn't heat up at all. Removing it on the rotary side was a little bit more difficult, as the product definitely began to heat up and dry out some, but it wasn't difficult compared to some products I've used in the past. As for correction, after just 1 pass, it actually did a pretty awesome job. It removed about 80% of the swirls, took a big chunk out of the paint transfer, and cleaned up a lot of the deeper scratches. It did leave some holograms, so we're going to be doing our second pass to work on that. So after our second pass, we can see that it has done an excellent job of removing almost all of the imperfections for us, which is extremely impressive. The only thing that's really left are things below the surface and can be felt with a fingernail. I didn't get all of the paint transfer cleaned up, but that was more due to the regular surface, more so than the product itself. So Turtle Wax's Scratch Repair and Renew with a rotary? I'd say it's actually worth considering in a pinch. Just be careful not to overheat the product and maintain a small 2x2 area. Now let's see how it does with the dual action polisher. So with our Meguiar's dual action polisher, we're using a 5-inch backing plate and the same, but new, 5-inch Meguiar's cutting microfiber pad that we used on the rotary. We start off by priming the pad as we did before, spreading the compound over the surface some, and then making sure we have our speed set properly. The instructions recommend 1500 RPMs, which is around speed 2 on here, though I do end up going up to speed 3 for a bit, which is closer to 2500 as the compound wasn't heating up much and this got us a little bit more working effort. After our first pass, it did an excellent job of removing a lot of the imperfections in the surface, leaving only minor swirls. However, it didn't do much for the paint transfer. Let's see how it does after working the area for the second pass. On the second pass, we removed pretty much all of the imperfections, similar to how well the rotary worked. However, we did have to work the area harder with the dual action. You can see that I had to almost scrub the surface while going over the paint transfer areas to minimize it as much as we did. Overall though, it could also be used in a pinch on a dual action polisher with a cutting pad. So my final thoughts. Well, it definitely performed better than I'd expected it to. Would I ever use this stuff by hand for paint correction though? No. It works, but it would just take way too long, and I do have other products I would use by hand that I prefer. However, performance on the dual action, and especially the rotary, was extremely impressive and went beyond my expectations by a long shot. I did realize I neglected to wipe down the panel with IPA, or isopropyl alcohol, before these shots, and I apologize there. However, after I realized I hadn't done it, I did go back and wipe down the panel to ensure what we were seeing wasn't just swirls and scratches being hidden by oils and fillers, and I can happily and confidently say that it does not appear to be. After the IPA wipe down and going over the panel with my light again, there was no change. Anyways, that's all I've got for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope it was able to offer some insight for others. As always, if you guys enjoyed the content I put out, it helps a ton if you share the video, as well as like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on new content as it comes out. Thanks for watching. Take care.